yes, you can plug it into an extension cord, but why should we do that when we can do something better? So today, I'm going to do something a little bit different. And I'm going to show you how to do this. So this is the same soldering station. Obviously, I've put the wire away here. I've replaced the sponge, and I have cut off the cord. Instead, what I've replaced it with is the same power connection that is used in computers. And the plus of that is these extension cords are plentiful and come in lots and lots of lengths. So this particular one happens to be 15 feet, and for my purposes in my fairly reasonably sized shop, it's about 24 feet. I can get from one end to the other without having to unplug. But, you know, if I am working in my office, on my desk, something like that, I might want a shorter cord. And the beauty of this system is you can get a cord that is 6 inches long or 15 feet long. And it also comes with other accessories, such as this is a female version, so you can take this 15-foot cord, plug this into it, and now it just becomes a standard extension cord. They also have what is a left and a right adapter. So if this is sitting on your desk, you can plug it in and the cord will go off to one direction or the other direction. So it's far more convenient. They also make a version that goes vertically. So if you want to keep things nice and compact, you can put one that goes in there vertically and then put the cord straight into the wall and only have that short piece of cord. And for me, this is more of a safety thing than anything else. I hate extension cords. I also have the situation where I have to store this in a compact space. So all of these actually go into these orange tool bins that I've wrapped my little set here with. So it has to be compact. So that's why I've got Velcro on here and on the cable as well. So it makes a very compact device here that works really well. Now on my personal unit, I did go ahead and I added a second power supply port here, which allows me to put power in from the side. I am not, however, going to show this to you, or show you how to do this particular one, because in most cases, the port out the back is going to be more than sufficient for most people. To get started, we're going to want to make sure that the soldering iron is unplugged and it's cold. And we'll go ahead and unplug it from the unit here because we're not going to be modifying the soldering iron itself in any way at the moment. So first things first, we got here, this is just the base unit. And we're going to leave about 3 inches of this cord. And we're just going to cut it off and throw it out. We no longer need it. What we are replacing it with is actually a better quality material. It's going to hold up better and it's going to work better. We're also going to get rid of this really worn out sponge and we'll replace that as well. So on the bottom of this, you'll see that there is a bunch of little rubber feet here. Now there's a variety of ways to remove this. I typically use a little screwdriver. There we go. So you can use a little screwdriver. If you have sprue nippers, you can use those as well. And then also notably, you'll see that there's these little tab pieces here. There's actually some little plastic ribs on the inside here that actually hold everything together. So we're going to go ahead and pull out these 3 screws. And it's just a standard Phillips, so nothing exciting. We'll set those screws off to the side so they don't get hurt. So next up, we're going to take a little screwdriver, we're going to stick it in this slot here, and go ahead and start opening it up. So one thing that'll be immediately noticed is there's a little weight bag in here. This is just a plastic bag that's filled with presumably sand. It could be metal shot or lead, I'm not quite sure. I believe it's been a couple different things throughout the manufacture of these. So you're just going to set that aside. You're going to end up putting it back in when you're done. So first things first, we've got the cord here. So we're going to go ahead and tuck this out of the way. Let's try to get it out of our way for the moment. And then we're going to grab our new connector here. So this 3-prong connector is going to replace the 3-prong plug that was on the back of it, and that is what our extension cord will plug into. So, and they plug in very easily, and they do come apart very easy, but the nice thing is you don't have to take the cord home with you. So in our case here, this actually seems to fit pretty well there, but we can't actually put it there, and here's why. These 2 screws actually hold the entire thing together, and if we put it in there, those 2 screws are gone. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to use this little void space here, and we're going to put it right there. So what this does is it makes sure that we can still use our 2 screw holes. It doesn't give us any safety concerns going forward. So going forward, the first things first is we are going to take our little connector here, and we are actually going to flip it so the flat side lays against the back of the panel here. And you want to make sure that when it lines up, it is just past this plastic divider here and between this plastic holder here. So it's going to sit right about there. And again, we're going to flip this over, making sure we line it up. And then we are going to take something sharp. We can use a little flathead screwdriver, an X-Acto knife, or even a box knife. And we're just going to scratch a line on either side. On the plastic so we know about where this is. So there's one line here and a second line right here. So once we get that done, then we got to figure out how tall it's going to be. Now we know the base actually has some thickness to it, so we know the very, very bottom we're not going to be able to use because this base is going to tuck back up in there. So instead what we're going to do is we're actually going to make this hole just a little bit high. Now you can do this a couple different ways. Again, I've got a set of rail nippers here. You could also do this with an X-Acto knife, a pair of box cutters, a little saw. You got a couple different options. So I'm going to go ahead and cut here and just go ahead and get this cut out. Okay, once you get it cut out and it's in a good spot, it's going to look something like this. It'll fit nice and snug. You'll notice that there isn't any gaps. It looks seemingly solid. There is, however, when you turn it, the little issue here. Now, fortunately, this little black piece has plenty of meat on this back edge, so we can shave a little off that, and we can shave just a little bit off this orange plastic here too, which is so now that we've got it cut into place, we've got it positioned correctly, we're going to go ahead and grab a little permanent marker here, and we're going to mark the screw holes. And then we're going to drill the holes. Okay, so now that I have the screws in place, I'm going to go ahead and just for extra security, I'm going to install a little bit of CA glue just to make sure that this doesn't go anywhere. So what we're going to do here is we'll just put a dab along this edge here and a dab along this edge here. Let it drip into place. And then I'm just going to hit it with some P210, which is an activator for the CA. So the glue's now dry. So now we need to find a way to get our wire from here over to here. So we're going to cut ourselves a little bit of a gap here. Now, the nice thing about this side is we don't have to be pretty. We can just get it done. Okay, so I've cut myself a little gap. Hopefully you can see it there. I'll try and zoom in for you. So it's enough for this wire to get through. Now thankfully we're not actually using all of this wire. We're actually going to cut it down a little bit. So here's what we're going to do. We've got the two hots on the other side, and then the middle one is actually the ground, which is the green, and that is the center leg there. So we're going to go ahead and grab our wire strippers. Okay, so this is going to fit in here. We are going to cut it down. So what we're going to do here is we're going to split these three legs apart. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to do a little bit of magic, and this piece of wire here is going to sneak up underneath and attach here. So we'll go ahead and bend it to shape to see about how much we need, and we'll cut off the excess. We know the ground is going to the center, but it's small enough that we can just kind of loop it around so we don't have to really trim it down much. So we're going to go ahead and strip that one. We'll strip this first one as well, since we already know that's the right length. And I'm not stripping a whole lot. I'm doing maybe about 1/4 inch, maybe a little more. There we go. And then finally the third one, that's going to be the shortest one. We're going to trim that to about here. Now the reason I'm doing it this way is so when I start folding this back up and putting things away, everything tucks up very nicely and there's no issues. So this is what it looks like. Nice and easy. So next up, we're actually going to have to plug in our soldering iron and take our roll of solder and just stick it over there and just stick it in. So it's just going to sit like that, and so this works temporarily in place of the metal coil here. So we'll go ahead and wait for that to get hot. In the meantime, I'm going to find my flux. Now what I'm using here is actually, it's a number 95, it's lead-free tinning flux. What this is actually meant for is copper pipes, but this is the lead-free variety, so you can use it for wire as well. And we'll go ahead and open this up. Stuff looks really gnarly, but it does work really well. And what I like to use to apply it is usually a little flathead screwdriver, or if you have zip ties. Zip ties work really well as a temporary applicator as well. So you just grab a little dab of it, and we'll just put a little dab on each piece. And it doesn't have to be much. even that is enough actually. All right, so we've got that all set. And as soon as the soldering iron gets hot here, we'll go ahead and solder this up. Okay, and we've got solder. So I like to put a little bead on the end of the soldering iron, and then I'll go ahead and tap it, and then I'll use the solder itself, to hold itself, to put one more dab on there. And what that does is the first one really just tins the wire, and then the second dab actually connects it. Now, in this particular case, you want to make sure your connections are nice and solid. This is AC, it's 120 volts versus our lower voltage that we normally use on the model railroads. So again, we're just dabbing. And that's it, it's all connected. All right, so now that your soldering is complete, you're going to go ahead and put it back in your solder here temporarily. This is not ideal. Don't do this every day or it will damage the connection, but for a one-time deal, you're more than okay to do that. Okay, so our connections are all good and tight. Nothing's moving. We'll go ahead and grab everything with a pair of pliers here, make sure it's all nice and solid, nothing's touching, everything looks good. So we're going to set the soldering iron out of the way, and we're going to test fit the bottom. And I already see one issue, which is this little tab here needs to go because it's interfering. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and we're going to clip it off. So again, these are sprue cutters. If you happen to not be a model railroader and you're watching this, they're little plastic cutters made for cutting parts off of the little plastic Christmas tree when you're making model cars and stuff like that. So it's just a nice way to get a nice smooth cut on a piece of plastic. So I went ahead and trimmed off that one side flare there, and now it should fit. And it looks like everything's going to close up just fine. Ah, there is one more thing. So you see this little plastic rib here? That actually cuts into this here. So you'll notice it cuts right down the middle of it. So we're going to cut it back about an inch. Again, we're going to go ahead and use the sprue cutters. And we're not worried about it being clean or anything like that. We're just trying to get it out of the way. So we're going to go ahead and test fit this again. Make sure everything fits the way it's supposed to. Okay, yeah, that sits just like it's supposed to now. So we're going to go ahead and take this little plastic bag of shot or metal or whatever it is, and we're going to squeeze it back in here. Now it looks like it went the other way. So we just set it in there, and then the base clicks back in place. See if I can get that plastic down in there. Okay, we got the 3 screws in place. You'll notice that this isn't really sitting flat back here. We're just going to give this a bit of a shake, get that stuff to go back where it belongs, and then we should be good to go. So next up, what we're going to do is we're going to plug it in. So we're going to take our cord here, plug it in the back here. Anyone? Flip that on. If the light comes on, it means you did it right. And then we're all set. In addition to making extension cords from 1 foot to 15 foot, They also have super long extension cords. They have adapters to go left, right, up, and down, and they also have a Y splitter, which is especially nice because when combined with the female plug accessory, you can have your soldering iron as well as something like your Dremel tool plugged into the same cord without extension cords. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Most of my videos are on the construction of layouts, but I love to give tool advice too. If you have questions on the type of tools you would like for your project, please don't hesitate to ask. Just go ahead and throw a comment down below and I'll reply usually within a couple days. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.